Welcome to the Bias Buzz. I'm Don Irvine. He's Brian McNichol.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right, we'll do some trending news or thereabouts here. NLDS baseball. We love baseball.
We love baseball,
and it's been great. October baseball is great.
Yeah, it is.
So we had a couple of great games yesterday. Didn't work out as well for the Nationals as we hoped, but it was against Kershaw, and once the bullpen came in, it became a game.
Yeah, and the poor Cubs. I mean, the poor Giants. We Astro fans, of course, remember last year that the same thing happened to us. We had the Kansas City Royals closed out, and they had a 6-run 8th inning, beat us, forced the Game 5 in Kansas City, and won there. And it happened to the Giants last night. Giants have had trouble all year closing games out, making games in. They had a real closer issue. They kept, and I know the first two guys got on. The second one was the lefty-lefty matchup. They had to win. They didn't win it, and at that point, you knew they were cooked. You were just waiting on how the damage was done.
So the Cubs really kind of got one monkey off their back. Now can they make the next step?
Yeah, they look pretty good. That was the bullet they had to dodge.
Yeah, so I as a Nats fan, one of the things I think about too is that if they beat the Dodgers, they get to face the Cubs.
Yeah.
Is that winning?
Yeah, that's right. Although they played the Cubs good during the year, so it's this time of year anything can happen anyway.
So maybe the Nats, some of their playoff misery will end this year. That would be wonderful news. Just want to briefly mention we had Columbus Day this week. If you can call it Columbus Day anywhere anymore. It's getting to be this National Indigenous Peoples Day and everything like that. What's happened to our country?
People who live somewhere and never move day, yay! It seems a good thing to celebrate. Although there was a big Columbus Day celebration downtown, the big fountain in front. I'm a member of the Knights of Columbus, a Catholic men's organization. The big fountain in front of Union Station was built with funds donated by the Knights, and so every year there's a big Knights of Columbus. There was a picture of the post of them in knight regalia, holding up their swords and doing the thing. So, there's still people celebrating it properly.
Just old people like you.
Yeah, that's right.
And this one is for you. Today is National Gumbo Day. I figure from Louisiana, we got to talk gumbo.
Yeah, I still remember my grandmother made the roux. Roux is the basis of it. And what you do is you put whatever goes in a roux, and I wouldn't even know where to begin. And you put something down on it, and you put heat under it, so then it sort of sweats. And the sweat of the roux is the basis for gumbo. And I can remember her doing that, and just the whole house would smell so good. And you walk in there, and you just get hit in the face with it. It was excellent.
Yeah, I'm not a drinker or anything like that, and I enjoy going to New Orleans for food. Yeah. And it's gumbo and jambalaya and crawfish, those things that are very native to Louisiana. Just wonderful, wonderful cooking. So this makes my mouth water and everything. All right, so now let's move on to the election. 27 days. We're really getting down there to the nub. Let's talk about the debate. This was a much better debate for Trump. If you're a Trump supporter, and if you're an honest and reasonable person and not listening to the news media, this was a good debate for Trump.
Right. He said a lot of stuff. He would just bank these, serious list of charges. And her thing was, everything he said was a lie. And it's like, if I'm watching that debate and I've never heard of either of these people, that's not believable to me, right? It's just like blanket denials, no specifics, just, he's totally inaccurate. That doesn't get, when you get in an argument with someone and they say, you're all wrong. It's like, okay, how am I wrong? And she offered none of that. So she implicitly admitted to a lot of stuff during that debate. The other thing is, to go back the 27 days is an eternity. Everybody's acting like, it's tomorrow. And I guess there's some early voting going on and so forth. But we're a long way from being done. There's a lot of momentum. We had a momentum shift away from Trump after the tape came out on Friday. Now it's starting to creep back up. I mean, this thing's going to go, we're not done with going up and down. It's still happening.
But the media's telling us it's over. It's going to be a landslide. Come on.
They want it. They want it to be over. That's what they want. They want to be right about this. And it's very important that they be right, because if they're wrong, you think about the major media organizations, NBC, CBS, New York Times, Washington Post, CNN. Okay, these are all brands that have been built over decades by promoting, we are fair and balanced. We do, I know that's Fox's slogan, but, we do both sides of the story. It's straight, even reporting. And they have totally beclowned themselves this cycle. It's okay if they win, because then it was, we were trying to warn you, this was really bad, and thanks for taking our warning. But if they lose, you're on the outside. And he doesn't seem to forget a whole lot, right?
Right.
And so you're in trouble for a long time.
Yeah. So this was an incredible weekend, kind of a crazy weekend in a crazy election year. We had those tapes that you mentioned, Trump issuing some vulgar things, crude, lewd, whatever terminology you want to use about women and groping women and things like that. That was a big negative for him. It was at least heavily played up in the media, obviously. I think they were eating that up. This, tabloid TV all over again, everywhere. Every network became tabloid television, I think, in this regard. So I think that only, it added to the pressure for him on Sunday night to perform well. And, one of the things that, he did do an amazingly good job. The statement about, you'd be in jail. I mean, that was a great zinger.
Yeah.
The media hated it. Every editorial or opinion piece I saw from the liberals were just like, well, this is so, this makes him so unpresidential. This is so beneath his dignity. All of these kinds of things. Come on.
It's all this third world country to, put your opponent in jail after an election. Well, yeah, we don't normally do that here. Normally, the baton just passes. But you got a person pretty much could, just the evidence that's in the public record right now is clearly guilty of a variety of crimes, right? And so, and it's also becoming clearer and clearer out of these, as these emails and so forth continue to come out, that the game was fixed, right? DOJ was coordinating with the campaign. Comey got money from the Clinton Foundation. The polling groups also are getting money from the Clinton Foundation. They're being bought to say, to cook their numbers or whatnot, that the fix is in here. Okay, so when the fix is in, what he is saying is, all the powers have lined up against you, right? And, you're a clearly guilty person is walking. And I think anybody who can look at this honestly has to admit that's true. A pretty clearly guilty person is walking because the system is fixed, okay? If he can make that case, it's far from over.
Yeah. How do you feel about this? He had to address, and that was tried to address that early on in the debate about the tapes and what he said. Now he apologized. He said that at least a couple of times during that initial segment, that first part of the debate. But I thought to turn that around and put the onus on Bill and the actions of Bill Clinton, that was brilliant.
I also thought one of the best things that happened on that is when he said, I'm not proud of it. He goes, and I apologize to my family, and I apologize to the American people. Now, okay, to his family. So, he identified correctly and immediately who was the most wronged by it, right? And then in a way that Americans can understand. Yeah, it makes your wife and your kids look really bad, okay? And then it wasn't to women, right? He did not say, I apologize to the women of America. He said, I apologize to the people, right? So everybody. So he thinks of us as all one nation. He does not slice and dice, right? That's why if you look at like the USC poll, right? If you dice it, women with a college degree, women without a college degree, men with a college degree, men without a college degree, Hispanic, African American, all that. It's intermittent, right? Some good, some bad, all very close. If you say 35K to 75K, that's 20,000 on either side of the median income. He's 18 points ahead. So where the rubber meets the road, it's not groups. It's 35 to 75K. That's where most of America lives. Now, up, places like this, the figure's a little higher because of cost of living and so forth. But that's, if you carry that group by 15, 18 points, you're not losing an election in this country.
Right. And I think, I will give credit to one person, really, maybe a couple people in the media in this sense, and that was Joe Scarborough and Morning Joe, because after the debate, he basically he praised Trump, and they've had a hard time with Trump. Both Vika Brzezinski has already declared that she's voting for Clinton, but and Scarborough's had some battles with Trump during the campaign, but he said that he dominated that debate, and he did. He took on the Clinton machine, which is what Americans have been waiting for years to do, and did it very effectively, I think.
Yeah, well, there was one thing, though. David Fairchild of the Washington Post has written all these stories about the Trump Foundation and so forth, all tipped by the campaign. It's basically a campaign screed. But he, of all people, pointed out on CNN that Trump brought all those people there, but he did not really ever explain what it was they did. And I think that's a big problem with him on a lot of levels of this. Is like, he talked about Obamacare, which absolutely needs to be talked about in this campaign. But he says it's a disaster. He said it was a disaster 15 times. Okay, it is a disaster. But the next step for him is to identify why it's a disaster. Like he said, and then he talked about it a minute. He's like, 15, 17, 21, 13, and I'm like, okay, we're about to run a play, because I'm not sure, I gathered he was talking about percent of premium increases, but he needs to say that because Trump assumes that everyone is reading Twitter and Facebook all day like me and you do and following all these permutations line by line, and they're not. Most of America lives a life. They work a job, they take their kids to ball games and stuff, and they don't follow the details of this. And she's falling through the cracks of that. She is afloat because she doesn't have, he is not elucidated down to the granular level what it is that's so bad about her. There's still a case to be made.
Are you insinuating I don't have a life?
I don't either. I'm right with you.
All right. So that's really good. Let this Spencer Irvine, my son, put together this little fact sheet. I'm just going to read a few things from this about fact-checked analysis of the debate. 81% of the statements fact-checked were from Trump statements. 0 false fact-check claims for Hillary. 25 statements from Trump were deemed false by the liberal media. Trump had 10 claims rated true, but 11 claims were rated mostly true or partly true. 48 of 59 statements fact-check came from Trump. 11 of 59 statements fact-check came from Clinton. Highest number of fact-checks for Hillary was 6, but for Trump it was 18. And that was from CNN. ABC News had 16 total fact checks, 14 were for Trump. CBS News looked at 19, 16 were for Trump. CNN analyzed 24, 18 for Trump, which was so. They were heavily looking at Trump. It was all the focus was on we got to fact check Trump, not so much Clinton.
Right, and part of that is she was staggered by all the stuff that came at her, and she didn't really make a lot of claims. She sort of, he lied. None of that's accurate, and it's like it is accurate. We absolutely know it is. We're reading this stuff every day.
Well, you just came up now. I'm going to move on to these polls because we've been waiting for polls to come out since the debate. The polls that had been issued really were kind of covering the weekend and the whole tape debacle and everything like that. And we were seeing a shift and bigger shift towards Clinton. You just mentioned to me before the show that the LA Times has a poll that is now going in the other direction.
Going in the other direction, and a couple of them have. There was some yesterday. Nate Silver estimates that the tape cost him 2 points, and that most of that was made up by the debate. And now the LA Times poll is back to 3. Trump by 3 ahead. Trump up by 3. And I think that, I think that's happened a lot in this cycle where, something happens, and many things have happened, right? And so there's a big media fallout. Oh, this makes it go, and CBS had a poll, 14 points. Trump's up 14. Clinton's up 14 points. Everybody knows that many votes did not turn on that, and all the harumphing by even, Paul Ryan and whoever did not make a 14-point difference, So now it comes out that polling organization's gotten large donations from the Clinton campaign Clinton Foundation, right? Why are they paying a polling company? What kids in Haiti does that feed? I don't know. Okay, but so they're buying poll results, and they're trying to create an echo chamber. So something happens. Oh, this made the polls erupt in favor of Clinton. So then you wait a couple of days, and people start thinking about what's said. You start seeing some pieces by thoughtful people the other way, right? And then all of a sudden, the balance is restored. And I think that's what's happened here.
All right. Well, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, we're just seeing, you mentioned earlier, I mean, we're still in this kind of eternity phase. Maybe other people are saying that it's not, but it is still a long time to go. We have another debate next week, which may become, even more critical. That'll leave us with 20 days or so before the election. So that'll be the last chance for people to watch on a national stage, both of them together. But Hillary definitely, from that debate standpoint, she was really reeling. She has to kind of pull it together here to save face, and not to see it really the momentum shift the other way dramatically. I think.
Yeah, I would have loved to have been at Dan Quayle's house when she started talking about Lincoln, because you had to see that one coming from a mile away. Oh, I think I got that from Lincoln. I was talking about Lincoln, and you're like, he's going to say it. This one, even Trump's not going to miss, right? And he did. Walked in, you're Lincoln?
You're right.
How? Because.
Yeah, there were a lot of great Trump moments.
There were a lot of he delivered some haymakers.
All right. Well, let's talk about something that's also in the news today, which is this email that coming from Podesta via WikiLeaks, I guess, about the Clinton campaign mocking Catholics. Right. Okay, I'm not Catholic. It doesn't affect me on that personal, deep level, but it
does me.
It does you. And and what they were saying in here, I mean, let me go back to a couple things that were reported. So Jennifer Palmieri, who's now the Clinton campaign director of communications, said that politically conservative Catholics, I think that Roman Catholicism is the most socially acceptable, politically conservative religion. Their rich friends wouldn't understand if they became evangelicals. And that she was responding to a message from John Halpin, a fellow liberal at the liberal think tank Center for American Progress. And then he had remarked about something here. Ken Auletta's latest piece on Murdoch in the New Yorker starts off with the aside that both Murdoch and Robert Thompson, managing editor of the Wall Street Journal, are raising their kids Catholic. Halpin wrote, friggin' Murdoch baptized his kids in Jordan where John the Baptist baptized Jesus. It's an amazing bastardization of the faith. They must be attracted to the systematic thought and severely backwards gender relations and must be totally unaware of Christian democracy. Go for it.
Well, first of all, the notion that, and I know where they get this, okay? So when Barack Obama was running for president in 2008, okay, suddenly, the speeches came out, Jeremiah Wright speeches, God damn America and all that stuff. And you had, there was big blowback against his pastors. So what did Obama do? He quit the church. Oh, I've been here 25 years. I got married. My kids got baptized here. I don't go here anymore. I don't believe anything this guy says because it's not politically expedient. Most Catholics are Catholic from the cradle. They're baptized as infants. They're not switching religions for political convenience, right? That's what they can't understand. It's like, it's a thing that's in you. It's not something to be traded for 2 points in the polls like Obama did. But I can understand them being that cynical about it because they don't believe anything, right? They believe nothing. There's nothing out there for them. And so all of this is just a play to them. It's like they don't care about what their evangelical friends say or what would happen if they started an evangelical church or joined it. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about being Catholic. That is completely offensive, and it won't, this will probably be the highest rated show that discusses this all day, because they don't want to talk about that because it really casts them in a bad light. I hope Catholics do find out about this. I saw yesterday, she was 17, 18 points ahead among Catholics, and I don't understand that because, she is probably the most pro-abortion candidate because Obama hid this as he was running. So as a candidate, no one has ever been more tied to Planned Parenthood, more indebted to Planned Parenthood politically than Hillary Clinton. So that, you're trying to tell us that, she appeals more to what Catholics believe? I don't think so.
Yeah, and as a Catholic, I think, you have a great perspective on this. And the thing is that, has it bothered you as a conservative Catholic about the more liberal Catholics who continue to vote Democrat year after year?
Yeah, I mean, they do it on the social justice thing, right? And their thing is, which party takes care of the poor. And I don't totally discount the emotion there, but the thing about it is, Jesus did not say get the government to take care of the poor. Jesus said, you take care of the poor. It's not something to be outsourced, right? Because you may not agree that this particular poor or that particular poor should be helped, right? You may say, hey, this guy's doing drugs. Let him pay his own bills, right? But if it's me giving the charity, it ends up with who I think is most deserving. That's the way to do it. And it's not something to be outsourced. And there's a lot of controversy in our church about that right now.
I can imagine. All right, we can talk a little bit more about WikiLeaks, the other things that keep coming out, and I guess there'll be more. It's kind of hard to predict exactly how much more stuff is coming out. What I find interesting about all these things that are coming out is just that the news reports say kind of alleged, type of thing when they refer to this. But I haven't seen a single person who has denied that any of this stuff, whether it's Donna Brazile, leaking a question from CNN, to Clinton camp, or the collusion kind of with Clinton and all these government agencies, et cetera. I haven't seen anybody deny that this is actually real. Right. They just say alleged to try to take the edge off a little bit, or say, make it a little bit less believable or something. I don't know. I
told the one guy, when all this happened to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, he goes, well, none of those emails are confirmed, right? I'm like, she resigned. That's your confirmation. If the emails weren't real, she wouldn't have quit. She'd have said, hey, the emails aren't real, right? She was forced out over this. So, the idea, and the thing about it is again, the media has beclowned itself. The CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, the day after this is over, especially if they lose, and it's it's them and Clinton. If they lose, they're in deep trouble because their brand has been sullied and there's no walking back the level of hysteria they have brought to covering this campaign.
All right, I'm going to move on to something that may not make the Trump fans all that happy, but I thought it needed to be said. I was looking on the news this morning, I saw this posting about the Trump campaign posted a new video ad called Dangerous, a 30-second ad on Hillary Clinton's health, including that picture. They used that picture of her being helped up the steps, which it's out of context if you don't describe it, but they were trying to make it look like she is the weak, unhealthy candidate, all the challenges that she would face if she was the president. Could she handle that kind of a thing? And all the postings I'm seeing by the conservatives on this have been that, YouTube is trying to hide this from everybody because they unlisted it. And I went and I looked, and I couldn't figure this out from what they were saying here in the sense I don't understand why they were saying this, because when I looked, my understanding of YouTube's policy is that they will age restrict something if it's been flagged by a user. They will remove something that's offensive. But this listing business, that is under the control of the person who placed the video on there. You can put a public listing. You can go unlisted. There is a warning there and everything like that. But that's not something that YouTube as a policy takes care of. They're giving the user, the owner of the video, the option as to how to list it. To me, it seems like a PR campaign, an effort by the Trump campaign to kind of label this as a kind of a liberal YouTube conspiracy. And I'm not going to be out there defending Google and YouTube and their liberal biases and everything like that. But I don't think it's fair to accuse YouTube of having done this when I think it's really the Trump campaign kind of putting this out there. And if it's a PR campaign that's been working, because when I checked this morning, there were 915,000 views. So they weren't exactly pushing it down. I mean,
they were hiding it. They weren't hiding it very well.
They did a lousy job hiding it. Okay, so I don't know if you have anything to say on that.
I am not all that versed on. I go on YouTube and watch music videos, but I don't think it's in their interest to do that at this point. And he has obviously a lot of channels to speak through. It's hard to argue that he's getting silence, right? Plus, I'm not sure that that's a great attack line on her, especially like she stood up for that whole thing. I think if you're saying, hey, she's sick and can't stand up and this is, she's going to be an invalid president, I think that's something that is more easily disproven than other things they should be talking about. All
right, well, let's finish up with Paul Ryan. come under a lot of fire. I think we've talked about this before. I mean, in 2012, Paul Ryan was, I would say that he was still the golden boy. And everything like that, ran with Romney and everything else. And conservatives I knew thought that was a great choice because they had their doubts about Romney and his conservatism. But now he's under a lot of attack from all sides, really.
I think that they did not understand what the members wanted replaced when they wanted rid of Boehner, because he doesn't really solve the problem that they were trying to solve by getting rid of Boehner. Right, he's representing the same wing of the party. He's doing it in much the same way. Now, he has a little more of a policy wonk, so he has like a package of proposals, economic proposals ready to go, sort of unfurl and pass it as a package type of thing. But I don't think people understand that, that's not the direction the House Republicans wanted to move. And they sort of got, well, he looks statesman, and we can't elect anyone else. No one else can get the votes. So it was sort of a settled-on candidate, and you're getting what you get with a settled-on candidate.
Right. All right. We did have one question that was submitted to us yesterday from Jeff in Gaithersburg, Maryland. My wife wonders why no one ever says Asian lives matter. And again, I know Jeff, and his wife is Japanese. Is it because Asians are so smart they raise the grading curve in school?
Well, that's one of the things in the Podesta emails. It's like if you put Asians and Jews in any situation, they'll be successful. But if you put African Americans and Roma, and they picked on the Romas for some reason, and somebody else, Hispanics, they'll fail in almost any situation. That's what they think of you, right? They think of this as a group. Now, do Asians, Black people, Jews, whoever, do they rise or fall as a group? No, they do it individually. They either you go to work or you don't, either you strive or you don't. These are individual things. And the big difference in this election is one side thinks of you as a group and going to deal with you as a group, and you're going to have to accept what it sees as the group solution. Okay? The other side sees you as an individual and wants to make it easier for you as an individual to prosper. Okay? And, to me, it's like, let me be in charge of me.
All right. 2-minute warning. You got maybe a minute.
Oh, Lord. Okay. So the hurricane came. LSU was supposed to play football at the University of Florida. This is getting to be a big thing. It was all over USA Today. It's not just me bringing out some LSU stuff here. LSU was supposed to play a game at Florida. Early in the week, it was clear hurricane was going to be a problem for flying in, flying out. So LSU offered to send its jet. We did this with South Carolina last year when they had a hurricane. Pick them up, bring them to Baton Rouge, put them up in hotels for free, play in Baton Rouge. Oh, no, we're not playing in Baton Rouge. Okay, what about Sunday? Nah, we can't play Sunday. What about Monday? Nah, we can't play Monday. Okay, so now they've offered us, they want LSU to, and the reason Florida did this is they have a lot of injuries, especially their defensive line. We're a running team, so they didn't want to play the game with their defensive line out. And so they chickened out of the game. And now they're dodgy about how they want to make it up. And they have a new commissioner in the SEC. For years, it was a really powerful, good commissioner, made everybody millions of dollars. Now you have a weak first-year guy, and he's getting, beat about in the storm. And they're not. They have 3 or 4 dates they're looking at, but it may come down to if the game matters, they will play it when they were going to play the SEC championship and the game after it. But the behavior of Florida in this thing is reprehensible. They chickened out of a game, and now they don't want to play it unless they can get it on their perfect terms.
I'm glad you got that off your chest. All right. My last thing here will be something that's just kind of incredible. So we were in this whole Nobel Peace Prize time, and Venezuela has decided to create the Hugo Chavez Award for Prize for Peace and Sovereignty. And President Maduro said during the unveiling of the statue of Chavez that they were going to give the first one to Putin because he's a fighter for peace, and he thinks that Putin deserves the award. And but Venezuela is they're so poor that they can't give you any money, so they're going to give you a little replica of the statue.
And a little one.
A very little one. So socialism strikes again. All right, that's it, folks, for this edition of the Bias Buzz. Join us next Thursday when we do a debate analysis on a special edition. Thanks a lot.